Hey, deserving listeners, 90 Day Fiancé. Let's watch.
My mother raised me in one way. You're a man.
Hey guys, I want to know who usually feels like the adult in their relationship? Bilal?
I think it's the Americans.
Like what, I don't feel like I treat her like a child. At least I try not to. I think.
So, yeah, I keep hoping that they'll work it out, or Shaeeda will stick up for herself or something, and she just always has that face right underneath the surface, and yet she just keeps going along with this relationship, and you just wonder, like, why? Now, I'm just going to take a guess and say that behind the scenes there's reasons, there's affection, there's love, there's, I don't know, a relationship there, but in terms of what we see on the show, it just seems like he is condescending and doesn't apologize, and she's always put in this position where she's groveling and apologizing for things that she probably shouldn't be apologizing for, and being treated badly, being spoken down to, and then she has this reaction, but then she just stays in the relationship. It's just, I was hoping that he would say that and she would have a different face. Like, she would say, well, yeah, I mean, most of the time you're okay, but that face says a lot, doesn't it?
I think we are equal.
You sound very naive.
Let me just, naive. Because she has...
Yeah. Ugh. She's rolling her eyes. She has contempt. She has anger. She has hurt. And he just calmly just proceeds. And, it's upsetting.
Been living in a box for basically her whole life. She's 37. Not like your typical 37, maybe from America, who has lived on her own.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. So many things to say that are obvious that I don't feel like I need to say, but just, oh my goodness. Ugh. She's lived in a box, and if she had actually lived like a real 37-year-old in the United States, she would be not naive. She would be smart and capable, but she's not. She's like a little child. That's ugh.
So she doesn't have the experience of a lot of other 37-years.
You don't have to say that loud on television.
I'm sorry.
Wait, what? What did he say that she didn't want him to say?
The experience of a lot
of other 37-years.
You don't have to say that loud on television.
I'm sorry.
Oh, maybe she's just not wanting him to say all this stuff, but he said she's never paid bills before. So, it's just so interesting in the tell-all that there's all these details that you would think would have come up during the season that would have made it, I think, a little bit more interesting, honestly. But anyway, so she's never paid bills. She's 37 and she's never paid a bill. Now, she did work and she did have her own business, and it was thriving from her description. So she probably contributed. I mean, maybe she lived with her parents, but she contributed to bills. She's never paid a bill in her life.
But what I'm just saying, just what we would consider like basic things, like I'm trying to explain and then she says I'm lecturing her.
Bilal, you sound like a professor sometimes.
Well, that's putting it nicely. But yeah, lecturing. Now, earlier, I didn't show it, I don't think, that they were just kind of chatting everyone, and he admitted that he has problems. But in this instance, it would be one of the instances where he could prove that to be true, that he is able to admit that. He could say, I do have a problem with lecturing sometimes, but there are some times when I feel like I'm legitimate in saying some things. But yeah, I do have a problem with lecturing and speaking down to her sometimes. Like, he could say that, but that's not what he's saying, right?
Shaeeda's like, no, has not changed.
It has not changed. Bilal is just so particular, like even eating food just a minute ago, he's watching me. He found him super messy.
Like when you were eating here?
Yes.
He was telling you were being too messy.
Yes, but for him...
Time out.
Yikes. It's par for the... So Shaeeda asks, has things improved? And he's like, well, and she's like, no, they haven't. It'd be one thing, yeah, what do we expect? Now, there are a lot of people who are neat freaks who suffer from OCD or OCPD or none of the above and just are particular about their surroundings. And you can own that. You can say like, well, I like things to be this way, but I know that other people don't. So I have to adjust. So I ask people, could you please not do that? You don't have to. You could really help me out with my anxiety if you didn't do that kind of thing. Now, of course, if it is OCD or OCPD, then getting proper treatment, and with particularly with OCPD, and having corrective experiences such that you feel okay as a human being and you don't resort to keeping everything neat to somehow justify your existence on the planet, would obviously help.
Context is everything. She had stuff all on her hands, and she was about to touch me and say, babe. I said, babe, you have stuff all on your hands. You're being really messy.
Did you have stuff?
Okay. Again, if he said, so you have stuff on your hands and this is just my issue, so if you could wipe that off, that could help me out. I don't want to insult. There's a way of communicating about it that's not patronizing.
Stuff all over your
A
hands?
little small speck.
It was not a small
A little
speck.
small dust.
No. Gilmo could seen it because he came and brought her some sanitizer. Yes. Yeah.
Guillermo
yeah.
said, how did I get dragged into this?
And it's really
And what would sanitize, if you have food on your hands and you're concerned about getting food on you, then what would sanitize? It just smears it around. But so I'm a little confused as to what. But do we really believe that Shaeeda was just covered in disgusting food goo and that she was just gonna wipe it all over his face? I mean, it just doesn't seem likely, right?
hard. It's difficult. When I came here, it was a complete shock.
What was the biggest shock for you?
So many. The prank. We still have disagreements.
Since everybody had such strong...
Okay, well, good, really, because it wasn't a prank. It was a series of lies that you could even say extended prior to her even arriving, because he obscured his real life. I mean, I get the impulse that he had, but why result to that? And then plus the prank, which was, that's not a prank. Pranking is like an April Fool's joke that everyone enjoys, right? What he did was a test, and it was a series of lies to quote unquote test her. And she's still upset about that, which I think is a good thing. And she keeps exhibiting this. I keep going like, okay, well, good. She can see reality, but she doesn't seem to know what to do, or there's nothing she can do about it because he won't apologize or admit reality or something. Again, there'd be nothing wrong with him saying, yeah, you know what, maybe I'm insecure. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have played that prank on you, and you're right. But I'm guessing he doesn't say that, and that leads to her feeling like, so at any moment I'm being tested potentially, and you're lying to me thoroughly. That would be extremely trust shredding. I mean, if my wife did that to me, even after all these years of trust, if she did something like that to me, that would ruin my trust for her. I'll tell you. Like, if she lied to me for even just 24 hours, and it was clear that she was trying to test me, you know, that it wasn't playful, it wasn't for my enjoyment, it was to manipulate me into a situation where she would find out whether or not I'm a horrible human being or not. Because, you know, that's the other part of that injury is like, so you did this because you weren't sure if I was a gold digger or not, which means you thought I might be a gold digger and that I'm a horrible psychopathic individual with no empathy who would prey on other human beings and lie to them. You think it's possible that I am like that. Now, as I said from the beginning, I get it because they barely know each other. Prior to her coming to the States, they had been together for a grand total of, I think, 7 days in person. So I get that he doesn't trust her, but maybe just take some time and get to know someone.
I'm getting sick and tired of you pranking me about this booger in my nose. I hate this type of joke. That's an American thing.
Yeah, I kind of forgot how hard she hit him. You know, you could say it wasn't abusive, fine, or was, but she didn't just, it wasn't a love tap. There's love taps and then there's that, which I get her upsettedness, but you shouldn't do that. Now, like, the pattern in their relationship is she will do something that I think is worthy of saying, hey, I didn't like that, and he will make it so much worse. I mean, didn't he literally pull the car over at some point as if she's a child? So, but let's rewind that.
I'm getting sick and tired of you pranking me about this booger in my...
Yeah, so she gave him a good whack. And if someone did that to me, I don't know how I would react. I probably wouldn't react well because that doesn't feel good. But I would hope that I would say something that's like, hey, you know, could you not do that? Like, and they're, well, it was a love tap. Okay, well, I get, so that's nice, but I don't like that kind of stuff on the, like, maybe on my arm you could have done that, but on my head.
My nose, I hate this type of joke. That's an American
Babe,
thing.
I don't know where you come from, but the environment I come from, we keep our hands to ourselves.
So I can't do this?
So what I'm gonna tell you is,
Yeah. So on one hand, I think she's just not reading the room, and she comes from a family or a culture where there's more of this kind of thing or something. But again, the way he talks, it's very condescending. I don't know where you come from, but where I come from, all you got to do is just say, hey, you kind of hit me a little hard. It wasn't that big of a deal, but I don't like that. And then she doubles down, which I think is a huge mistake, because he's being clear about like boundaries, and she really goes for it. Now, I don't think she's up to no good. I don't think she's trying to control him or abuse him or anything. I just think she's not reading the room. But again, all he'd have to do is be like, oh, okay, well, we'll talk about this later, or it's probably not worth it. There's a lot of ways he could have reacted to this given the scenario. It's not that big of a deal, right? But then he takes it to this level of that she's a complete piece of crap and a child.
stop. You gonna try to get a wreck? She's doing this as a joke, but it's a joke that I don't play.
Bilal, you have to be a madman to stop at the side of the road like this.
Yeah, this is the highway.
Just because I give you a little tap.
Yeah. You thought I was joking.
Yeah, they're pulling over. They didn't show the part where he was threatening to pull over, which for some reason I found to be more disturbing.
Wow. So let's go back to when you first arrived in the United States.
When Bilal came to Trinidad, I felt like I rolled out the red carpet for him. Yeah, like I packed him food, I bring my parents. We treated him like royalty, right?
Interesting. So I hadn't considered that the first time watching this earlier in the season, because I remember thinking, well, she was critical and was playing into the narrative that she might be I don't think she is a gold digger, but she was basically looking around like, this is disgusting. And I'm thinking, well, I don't know, who cares? If this is his life and that is his house and that is his van, then why is that such a concern? Like, is it not okay? But she brings this up. She says, we rolled out the red carpet. We put a lot of effort into making him feel welcome. We prepared things, and she is looking in the van, and there's all this, garbage or something. But the house looked fine. But anyway, so I could see that being a part of it. I also said at the time that if you were led to believe one thing, like he was richer than that, not that you were wanting him to be rich, but you might say like, oh, wow, you really made it seem like you were rich and you're not. So that's okay that you're not, but why were you tricking me when you came to Trinidad the first time? Because you had all these nice things. So what's going on there? Like, you could see that being a complaint too.
Ari?
Yeah, I just want to say, Bilal, you always have an answer for everything. And I think that's suspicious. I feel like, you always want to, like, oh, no, but it's not like this, it's like this. Even with her, like, you're always like, and then you're telling, no, you don't feel like this, you feel like this.
Yeah, I think that is true, that for Bilal, whenever there's a confrontation, he always has a really calm, sometimes lecturing response that it seems like he thinks it addresses it, but doesn't really, right?
I think sometimes women test men to see how what we could get away with.
You said do what?
To see what we could get away with. Listen.
What was the first thing you said, though, before that?
This is for me to answer,
She
right?
used the word test.
Bilal played a prank, and I was expecting to say, babe, chill, relax, cool yourself, right? I wasn't expecting him to get so serious.
Right. That's essentially what I'm saying. It's one thing for him to be like, hey, take it easy. It's another thing for him to become, so serious and condescending and belittling.
One thing I would never, ever, ever, ever is kick her out the car, or any woman for that matter, out of the car. Simply, I wanted her to stop hitting me in the head. Again, hindsight, something I should have did. Apologize as well to overreacting.
Okay, great. So he says, hindsight, I should have apologized for overreacting. So that's great. And I hope that Shaeeda can hear that he is apologizing and saying that he overreacted. That's great. I think that might be the very first time we've heard him admit something like that. So maybe he does more of that behind the scenes, and Shaeeda sees that and stays in the relationship because of that.
If the comment is about your behavior, do you automatically say, well, but what about your behavior, as opposed to just
really.
concentrating on fixing the behavior that she's talking
not really.
about?
Yes, Sean.
Not really.
That's exactly it. Yes.
Okay.
Babe, you do that.
Yeah, so Sean and others are seeing what I think a lot of us are seeing, and Shaeeda's like, yeah, that's it. And then Bilal is shutting down because he just doesn't like... I'm going to take a guess and say that Bilal doesn't wake up in the morning and say, I want to be a jerkface. I'm guessing that he developed this pretty robust defensive structure early in life as a way of protecting himself from something. And he believes that he needs that wall. He needs that protection, because if he doesn't have it, then he will be harmed. It's just my assumption. Doesn't make it okay, but it's a pretty robust system that he has.
Uh-oh. Now we're getting passive aggressive now. Okay. You just said okay.
Yeah.
Like kind of like shutting it down.
No, whatever she says.
You do that. And
All right, well, that does it for that episode. Everyone out there, please take care of yourself, because you deserve it. You really, really do.